Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lady T or Nathalie, whichever one you really prefer. Before we start, I want to thank my dear friend Fairytale Fanatic for the shout out she gave me in the last video. So I will return the favor. Fairytale Fanatic is a great dear friend of mine who I met at my new school this year, and she has a great channel in which she makes videos about fairy tales and stuff. That's going to happen soon, and we are going to do a collab video pretty soon as well, probably somewhere in the next coming days, so that's going to be very exciting. So I will leave a link to her channel in the description below, and these new stories that I'm going to be telling you are fairy tale ones. I'm going to start a fairy tale book. You can read it on Wattpad, but I'm going to read it softly to you here on YouTube. And I chose to do fairy tales because Fairytale Fanatic, my friend, is very enthusiastic about fairy tales. So a few weeks ago I felt like writing an intro to a possible fairy tale book, and I really got into it. So that is going to be a series. So I hope you will enjoy it. It is called The Cottage of Dreams, and in a few seconds I'm going to be telling the story of the intro to you. But as you may notice, the background is a little different from the other videos, and that is because this is going to be a special series of one continuous book. So I thought it deserved another background than just a simple candle. So I went out into nature and shot some clips for this video. Most of them, like this one that you're probably watching right now, is a movie of a clip of nature which you can barely see anything moving, but there are going to be some clips in here that I took while riding my bike. So not all of the clips in this video are going to be looking like pictures basically and moving, but some of them are going to have a little more action. But without further ado, let's get into the intro of The Cottage of Dreams. Once upon a time, there was you. You were walking through a forest, one that was thicker and darker than the ones you were used to near your home. For how long you had been walking there, you did not know. All you knew was that your curiosity was what was leading you the way. You couldn't see much in front of you, or in any other direction for that matter. It was as if the clouds themselves had come down to keep a secret from you. If that was their plan, and they had made a mistake, it was only getting more exciting. Another twig snapped beneath your feet. You paid it no mind. All you could focus on was the thumping of your heart. The boom, boom of your heart was almost in perfect sync with the steps that led you forward. Sounds had died down a little while ago. No bird could be heard or seen in this bigger part of the forest. The memory of your parents sitting on a picnic blanket somewhere far behind you was long gone. Your mind was only focused on one thing: going forward. Forward to whatever it was that drew you in. Questions tried to form themselves in your mind, but they were pushed away as quickly as they came. All that mattered was moving on. Your hands started to feel colder, but it didn't bother you. Something in the back of your head told you that you would feel warmer soon. All you had to do was walk forward. Thoughts now completely disappeared from your mind. The trees began to part as if they were stepping away. Now that you looked more closely, they were actually stepping away. Their roots were tangled together now, looking like fancy shoes beneath their tougher exterior. Some of them took off their top hats and bowed as you crossed them. You nodded at every single one of them. Above you, the sky was painted in different shades of pink, red and yellow. A hint of orange was hidden behind some clouds. To your surprise, you saw that there was a cloud looking like a duckling, and another closely resembled a deer, and over there, that one looked exactly like your grandfather when he sneezed. You held your hand against your mouth as you giggled. The giggles weren't stopped from escaping though. They flew into the air like smoke escapes from a chimney. Up they went, high, higher, until they burst. The giggles came down in colored drops. Some of them landed on flowers, painting them in whole new colors that you had never seen before. Excitedly you rushed over to a drop that hit the ground. A small flower blossomed right there in front of your eyes. The snowdrop looked slightly out of place in the sea of black roses, but not for long. The drops from your giggles landed on some of the black of the flowers. Jumping from flower to flower, they painted parts white. Yet none of the other drops created more snowdrops. It was one of a kind in the black and white sea. Without a warning, the flowers suddenly gathered their leaves and took a step back. The snowdrop motioned for you to follow her. You didn't need any convincing to do just that. Standing behind a row of flowers, you watched in awe as a path formed right in front of you. Cobblestones popped up from the ground. Had they always been there? Maybe, before, they had been hidden by the fallen leaves of autumn? Carefully you dared to step on one of the stones as soon as it stopped trembling. More and more of them popped up to form a path that led to a cottage. Your eyes widened in wonder when you noticed it waiting there for you down in the valley. You weren't sure when you had entered the valley, but it was here now. Your feet hurried to follow the path down and find out who the cottage belonged to. Surely that person must be nice, you said to yourself, feeling more excited by the second. The cottage was built out of heavy-looking logs. Small circular windows allowed some of the sunlight to reach into the home. The beams of sunlight were only stopped by light green curtains, also allowing for a perfect spot to peek behind for hide and seek. A gorgeous garden covered the land around the cottage. Marigolds and white poppies were some of the flowers that greeted you. They waved their small leaves when they spotted you. You felt so welcomed by their greetings that you couldn't help but to smile brightly. Your feet slowed down when you came near the gate. For the first time, you wondered whether or not it would be rude to just walk in. Still, that feeling of belonging hadn't left you, so you carried on. Trying not to sound like you were up to evil schemes, you opened the gate like you normally would. There was no need to keep the gate from making too much noise. The gate fell shut behind you. Meow. The door to the cottage opened. A black cat walked out. He held his tail up high as he walked directly towards you. You bent down to lean on one knee, closer to the ground, to greet the cat. It sat down in front of you, looking at you curiously. Its mouth opened and... You have arrived. You had to steady yourself to not fall over. You talked, you said, pointing a finger at the cat. The cat closed its eyes. Indeed I can. Forgive me for meowing before. We always have to wait and see who comes in. I'm sure you understand. Frankly, you had no idea what he was talking about. You just nodded so you wouldn't hurt his feelings. The cat got up, turned around. You may follow me. We have been expecting you for some time now. I'll lead the way. The cat looked very regal as he walked on his tippy toes. The white socks that were his feet and stopping down on the cobblestones as he led the way. He disappeared back into the cottage. You followed him inside. More flowers decorated the inside of the house. A vase was standing on the mantelpiece. A couple of vases decorated the dinner table. A quilt hung behind the headboard of the bed. Next to the fireplace stood a rocking chair, carrying an elderly woman. She was knitting, humming a song to herself as the hours flew by. The hands of the grandfather clock actually moved rather rapidly. "There you are, my dear. You are a little later than expected." Her eyes met yours, filling you with warmth instantly. She put her knitting back inside the basket. With her wrinkled hand, she patted the cover of a cushion that laid on the floor. "Are you ready for a story?" The cat jumped on top of the mantelpiece. He watched you carefully as you sat down on the cushion. "Do you know a story about princesses?" you asked excitedly. The woman chuckled. "Of course I do. I know stories about princes, dragons, and far-off places. And I can assure you that you have heard none of them before. But first, maybe we need some muffins to still our hunger." A plate appeared in her hands. "Chocolate muffins!" you cried out. The old woman smiled kindly when you reached for one. "I hope they are to your liking." You nodded excitedly after your first bite. "These are the best chocolate muffins that I've ever had." The cat purred. The old woman put a plate of chocolate muffins down on the side table. "Now, before I begin the tale, I have to ask you a question. These tales, you see, aren't just for anyone. I must make sure that you have come to the right place before I start. Is that all right?" He smiled kindly at her. "Sure, I don't mind answering a few questions." Good, good. The only thing I need to know is..." She hesitated. You waited patiently for her to continue. Do you know?" The old woman kept a close eye on you after silence slipped into the room. You raised an eyebrow. Excuse me?" The older woman closed her eyes. She knew enough. "Our first tale starts like many others do," she said. "We start off in a faraway place." And that was the intro for this fairy tale book, The Cottage of Dreams. I hope that you liked this first chapter, and welcome if you are new. It actually took some time to shoot this video, not the movie clips that you're seeing of nature, but the actual audio, because for some reason my neighbor has been silent all day long, and suddenly he decided to drill something in the wall, and I don't know why, because he's been doing that for 2 weeks now, almost every single day. So I'm wondering what he's doing with the drill. And then my dog started snoring. He's actually laying here beside me next to the table, and he started snoring at some point. So I hope that you can't hear it on the video, or that it at least doesn't bother you. But he is very relaxed right now, and I hope that you are relaxed as well. I hope to see you in the next video, and I hope you have a great day. Goodbye.